Get ready for 2 hours of hard-hitting football talk, straight from their jocks about the jocks. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, know-it-alls? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the Know Show. Locked and loaded, ready to go. Let's talk some football, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a whole lot going on in the NFL, but we've got a lot of news to talk about.
We're going to talk about everything.
A lot of issues, I think, that the NFL's facing even right now. Even though it's kind of hush-hush here and there, but we're the ones to break it down, talk about it, and get it, nip this in the bud. Last week was our first time using the Zoom and doing an interview there with Brian Noe. That was interesting. It was a lot like a lot of my first. It was awkward at first, and then we warmed it up, and then
I just took the night off.
Ended with a big bang. I guess it was good afterwards. It's good. So we really appreciate you guys joining with us here tonight. Make sure you guys give us a like on our page on Facebook and join our group Football on the Know Show, and also go over to YouTube Football on the Know Show. Hit the notification bell to get the latest and greatest updates, and hit the subscribe button too as well while you're there. Some stuff going on here, and what we want to talk about this week is, it's a little different, I guess. It's a little controversial, I guess, but we figured this is something that kind of bothered us, and it's something we've always been wanting to talk about, because it is a constant headline that you see with the NFL and with players. And I was even doing some research about it last night even too, and this has consistently happened since early 2000s. And back in 2002, it was said that 1 in 4 NFL players owned guns. And it's one thing to have a gun. And it's one thing to, have it be a legal register a gun, a pistol or whatever. But when guys are having Uzis and then carrying them loaded in certain areas, in nightclubs, we saw what happened with Plaxico Burress and things like that. And he did prison time, seems like that. Yeah. But as of late especially, you're seeing a lot of it going down with these players, and not a whole lot of repercussions happening, even though the NFL has a policy about, guns, carrying guns.
Right. I mean, the NFL has never so far the NFL has never taken a real true stance against everything that they believe in. So a lot of the rules that they've created and try to enforce, it seems like they let a lot of stuff slide by. They sweep a lot under the carpet. They kind of overlook it. They're getting tired of getting black eyes through the media and trying to just overstep everything and get over it pretty quickly and kind of just say, hey, never mind about that. Don't pay attention to that. Nothing happened. Nothing to see here. Keep walking. You know what I mean? So the NFL, as much as they say, oh, we're going to investigate this case, we're going to investigate that case, we're going to get to the bottom of this, and we will dish out a necessary punishment. Well, they've been dramatically inconsistent with those punishments. And we've seen a lot of everything up and down the scale. Anything from, domestic violence to illegal gun possession. We've seen, and of course you got the normal like DUI, driving extremely fast and all that kind of thing. But when you got illegal ammunition, illegal guns that you have under your possession, whether that be at your home or in your car or on your person, the NFL's got to kick it up a notch in terms of punishing these guys, because not only have they been inconsistent, but it seems like all these big-time harsh, breakage of the laws that they've been doing, it's like the punishments that get doled out are like nothing. It's like 2 to 4 game suspensions. Then okay, everything's good and well, and we can just continue on. Never mind what happened. But it seems like a lot of the guys that kind of do stuff that's like, if you can see it like as a minor type offense, like marijuana possession. We know that more and more states are legalizing it, so it's going to be very hard for the NFL to kind of really enforce that anymore, as more and more states legalize it. But that used to be a big, no-no in the NFL. They used to come down harder on that than, say, a domestic violence case that happened. You know what I mean? Or a sexual abuse case that happened. It seems like those guys kind of got away with murder in a sense, more than the guys that just, hey, I just had a little bit of pot on me.
Or even some guys possibly have gotten away with murder and had a lucrative career, like Ray Lewis, potentially, too. I mean, he was in some of those situations when there was a few of his buddies together.
Right.
And something had happened, and he,
but
that's
that
still being
never
able to
convicted.
play. Never convicted.
So
I
he was
understand
off.
that too as well. So it works, and it happens for
But
that.
my thing is that they're convicted and they still get nothing.
No, I agree.
You know what I mean?
I
Like
agree there.
you think about back, Ray Rice. Perfect example, Ray Rice. Now this is a perfect example of them actually enforcing it and following through with it. Is when Ray Rice was caught on video, which I think was the big pushing point. A lot of people were outraged about that he got caught on tape and he actually abused the woman he was with. And with such outrage that poured out towards the NFL about that, they're like, we got to do something fast. So they not only suspended him, but they never allowed him to come back into the league. He was done. His career was over. He was only 27, I think, at the time, and never got to play. Really good player, but never got to play. Then you look at some of these other big names like Tyreek Hill. You know what I mean? You look at a guy like Kareem Hunt. Those guys that Tyreek Hill was accused of, abusing his wife while she was pregnant. Kareem Hunt was caught on video even kicking a woman while she was down, and had to be pulled away by his own posse to stop the violence. Those guys got off with nothing. Kareem Hunt got 8-game suspension, and that was it. All done. All well. All good. But I mean, this kind of all intertwines of the NFL being inconsistent with their punishments. So they're like to some of the laws that have been broken by these players, big names, not big names, whatever. But then now we're getting into gun charges. Now we're getting into illegal, on their person, illegal arms in their car, in their glove box, on their person, and you don't know what's going to happen. Like you mentioned before with Plexico Burris, he had a gun. He shot himself in the foot. I mean, why have a listen? And they're loaded. Like you were about to say, they're loaded guns. Why do you have a loaded gun on your person? It's for protection. Okay. But
one of the other bodyguards around you.
What about the 4 bodyguards?
You have bodyguards too. You hire these guys, and even you for yourself. I understand too. You never know what kind of crazy people that might come around you. Even though you're, like some people, if you look at Frank Clark here, 6'3", 260 pounds. I mean, you can pretty much handle yourself, if somebody comes around. And I know a lot of people like to try to start business with the biggest dude in the bar, even they know who you are. Like, oh, you going to touch me? This. That's why they get bodyguards, so you can do some of that.
Right,
so
bouncers.
Get in trouble and stuff. But for the fact that you have these things on you, Plaxico Burress went to a nightclub, had it on them, and ended up shooting himself, did prison time. Some of these other guys, and it's funny, what really sparks this for me is I found an article on the New York Post, and he basically, the guy that wrote it just basically brings up, he's like, why are so many NFL players, mostly big guys, stuff like that, busted for carrying weapons, and the kind that even spray many bullets, not just like a pistol, 9mm. Frank Clark, now, he got pulled over, and they found a loaded Uzi in his car with him. So, I mean, what is this guy doing with a bodyguard? And he says that it is his bodyguard's gun. But why does he have his bodyguard's gun loaded in his car, and it's a submachine gun? I mean, and why doesn't the bodyguard have it then?
He's got
business. And why does the bodyguard need an Uzi to do this? Like, is he expecting drive-bys anytime soon? Like, what is the deal here? I mean, this is the thing that doesn't make sense to me. And the fact that it's happening on the daily with multiple people, and then it just asks you the question, where are they going? And why and with whom do they need it essential to carry a gun like this? Why do they think their life might be threatened in that aspect? That's some of the questions there. Are they expected to have to defend themselves with deadly force? And why is that common amongst NFL players? And when I looked at that stat back from 2002, it's probably the same now. That 1 of 4, it's probably more, probably over half of them carry guns.
I would say more.
Why is it?
I mean, but that's the thing too, is you have a right to bear arms. You have no problem. Problem when you have the right to bear arms, as long as you go through the necessary paperwork and the classes that you have to take and all that kind of thing. and you pick out a gun that's necessary for you to have. You don't need to have an Uzi. You don't need to have a rocket launcher in your trunk. You know what I mean? You don't need to have anything crazy, crazy destructive, for one, and for another thing, like automatics. Like, you don't need to have an automatic weapon. Like, there's no reason for it. So, you cannot justify having those type of weapons right now. Like, it's no problem if you have it on your person. It's fine. If you have a conceal and carry license, that, hey, whatever. You want to protect yourself, and that's what that you took the necessary steps to gain that right. Fine, but the problem is they're finding more and more players getting these illegal guns out of nowhere and saying, and listen, if they have a bouncer or not, they can hire armed security guards if they wish, armed bouncers, whatever you want to call them, and have them be the ones that have the weapons on them, so they can protect them at all, whatever. Mm-hmm. But we're finding more and more that they're not just pistols. They have Uzis. I just, what do you need to pray and spray? Like, against who? Who are you expecting to come after you? Is John Travolta with the 16 goons going to come at you out of the movie and go after you like that? Right, that's what it seems like. It seems like, listen, if that's their belief that they need those kinds of weapons, then something tells me that they're into other things that they shouldn't be. Whether it be, an old posse you used to hang out with back at home, and you go back home and you're expecting that kind of a situation to occur, where like maybe growing up, wherever you grew up and it was hard and rough and there was gangs involved and everything, and you go back there to visit your family or whatever, and you feel like you need to have those types of weapons to defend yourself and your family, but there's a problem with that. As a professional athlete, you can literally ruin your life in a blink of an eye if you go into these situations, if you put yourself into these situations or something like that. So it's critical for yourself to reevaluate yourself going into the league. Now that you've made it, don't make it a habit of saying, hey, I still got to live the way I used to live. Mm-hmm. You got to change your lifestyle now. Because now you're seen as a professional athlete. You're seen as a role model to a lot of kids, a lot of people growing up. So do you want to be known as the guy that carried around an Uzi and accidentally shot little Susie, 6-year-old girl, whatever, when you were trying to defend yourself? Mm-hmm. That's not the route you should take. Like, take all the necessary precautions you want, but do it, as the requirements state. You know what I mean? You don't need Uzi. Have a pistol on you, that's fine. Conceal and carry. Get bouncer, armed security guards, whatever, to help fend off whoever that you think might mess with you or whatever. But in the end, be smarter. Don't bring extra trouble to yourself.
Right, and there's a lot of players that own guns, and that's fine. Like you said, there's plenty of legal ways to do it. You might have one legally, no automatic weapons and things like that. That's fine even too. But there is part of the policy that says there's certain stipulations about it, and you need to pay attention to if you cross state lines into other borders of other states, you have different gun laws as you go in there,
right?
And when you even possess them, legal or not. So one other thing, like you said, even too, when they got time in their hands, they go back. We recently, last season went through the whole COVID sit-out for a little bit, and guys got a little crazy and stuff like too. We heard about DeAndre Baker. He got into a heated argument with some guests that he was at a party or something like that. Hung out. Him and Quentin Dunbar were there, and he pulled out a semi-automatic weapon and started robbing even party goers, and then told them to give up all this cash and things and jewelry that they had, and things like that when he's out on his time off. Since March, there have been at least 5 arrests this year with players with guns, and on a single Saturday in 2020, there were 4 arrested on gun charges in 3 separate incidents. In April, Pittsburgh Steelers cornerback Justin Lane was arrested in Ohio, and they found a loaded gun in his car during an early morning traffic stop. And this is what is a common thing too, these early morning traffic stops. And as an NFL player, they pretty much kind of tell you nothing good happens after midnight. So if you're going out partying, you're doing whatever, hanging out, why are you getting pulled over? Cops don't usually just pull you over for whatever. I understand that, some might seem something suspicious, or just even, if you want to say it could be stereotyping or whatever. But nonetheless, a lot of these guys are doing something wrong that they get pulled over, knowing they have a weapon in the car. Mm-hmm. So then there's another charge on top of it. Lane, who was 23, was arrested on a 4th-degree felony charge. Check this out. This is what happens when you're just stupid, flat out stupid. Arrested on a 4th-degree felony charge for improper handling of a firearm in a motor vehicle. And he was stopped about 1:20 a.m. when his Dodge Charger was going 89 in a 60. And records, when they ran his license, showed that he was driving with a suspended license. He had an outstanding warrant for failure to appear in a traffic violation. So he failed to even go to court for this whole thing. That's why his license was suspended even. And he's still out driving, speeding with a Glock pistol in his center console right there. And he wasn't a license to conceal permit holder either.
That's what I was just going to say too.
Exactly.
Because early on in that story, I didn't hear anything about how all you heard was going to be arrested for having an improper gun in his car, concealed in his car. Mm-hmm. Right there and then, that shows me that the cops asked if he had any weapons or anything in his car. He said no, knowing very well that he's not allowed to have a gun. He's not allowed to conceal a weapon. And that's just an added charge that just goes up on there. So he illegally had a firearm, which, to be honest, Justin Lane, he could have very well did what he had to do to get that pistol legally and been able to legally conceal and carry a weapon. But because he didn't take the necessary channels to do so, that's just an added charge now onto your record and everything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what's funny is this happens in Cleveland a lot too, or Ohio, because another incident, if you remember back in March, Marshawn Lattimore, he was pulled over too by the police. This happened around 10:30 at night. They conducted a traffic stop for multiple traffic violations, according to Cleveland PD. And during the stop, they observed a loaded Glock 19 handgun in the vehicle with Lattimore, and was also found a loaded handgun in the possession of people that were with him. 2 other passengers were arrested for having weapons while under disability. The driver was arrested for improper handling of a firearm, and that's a 4th-degree offense here there for Lattimore. The other 2 guys also smelling of weed and things like that, having the guns, and when you look at, say, having weapons under disability, now what does that mean? Well, I have even the meaning of that right here. The definition of that is acquiring, having, carrying, or using a firearm or dangerous ordinance while the person is a fugitive from justice, or while under indictment for a violent or drug felony, or is drug or alcohol dependent, or has been adjudicated for mentally being incompetent. So all of those symptoms right there, or ors, are all pretty bad. And these guys have handguns, and these guys are the guys that they're hanging out with. When you become an NFL player, you're supposed to be, I know, and it's tough even because you are who you are, you need to try and associate yourself with better people and better
disassociate with your past.
And things like that. And I understand if you think you still might need to protect yourself, but you can get bodyguards for that, and you don't need to be driving around under the influence with other people that potentially could get you in trouble, that might have it on them. Right. You've been hanging out with some of these guys, and they could be felons or something like that. They had a warrant all of a sudden out of everything. So it starts with the traffic violation, which leads you to having the gun on your possession, legal or not, and Marshawn Lattimore was in possession of a stolen firearm. So they're wondering how he got that.
Well, he paid for it.
No, he paid for it, but it's stolen from somebody else. So did you steal it?
No, he didn't steal it.
He acquired it.
He acquired it from somebody else who stole it. So, I mean, and that's the thing here.
You can get it the right way.
It's right. You can get it the right way. That way you legally have it. And I understand. And the other thing, too, is listen, I know some players, they just don't want to be hassled going through take the necessary proper channels to get and acquire a gun. and all that, but
they have
it's the
time.
right way. Like
Yeah.
it's something that's going to prevent you from getting into further trouble, having a stolen gun on you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And the same thing goes with like when you finally have made it. You made it to the pros. I know it's not, you know, an easy choice. I know it's not something that you might want to do, and I know you've grown up and you have ties with good friends back home, but those friends could possibly be involved in activity that you should not be tied to, that you should not be hanging around, because it could either jeopardize your life or just your career. So it's necessary, like, to reevaluate the people you surround yourself with, and to distance yourself from problems that could happen down the road, and just to kind of stay away from those bad situations.
And looking at the NFL policy on it, it says here, understanding the law. If you legally possess a weapon, you must understand the local, state, and federal laws that apply. And the NFL security representative that they have in your particular area will help you get information about these laws so you more understand these things, and should be aware that if you take a weapon from one place to another, for example, across state lines, a different set of laws may apply in that new place. And they don't say it's illegal for the NFL here against policy, but they strongly recommend that you do not bring, if you use a gun for sport, shooting for sport, hunting, bring that around in your car, in your vehicle, travel with you, because it could be within reach of children or somebody else that potentially could use the weapon for doing harm or harm themselves by accident because they do not know how to use it. Mm-hmm. Now, if you look at disciplining here, now this is where you take a look at this. If you violate this policy on guns and other weapons, you are subject to discipline, including suspension from playing, and if you violate a public law covering weapons, which these guys had, you know what I mean? If you go into the state, right there, the Uzi, the Glock 19 that was stolen, those are all laws they broke of an unlicensed firearm. You are not only subject to discipline, including suspension from playing, but also subject to criminal prosecution. And this is what they say, and they could be facing stuff criminally. Are these courts going to go after them for them? Who knows? Possibly, yes, they probably should for some of them too. But the NFL needs to, I think, try to set that standard. If they want to tell you that they're trying to treat everybody better, they want to clean up the NFL, they want to do this in unity, they need to go down on, harder crack down on all this stuff. Not only violence towards women, violence towards each other, gun possession, and doing it in the wrong manner. It's fine to have one, but the illegal ones, things like that, they need to come down on these guys and have the suspensions being made. They go harder on Tom Brady for deflating footballs and things like that. They find the Patriots for other
still
things.
got away with that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he
say
still got away. Well, I'm just saying, with the fines and suspending of games, do you see Frank Clark did anything right now? Maybe if charges are filed finally against him or whatever. But he's done this before when he was with Michigan. Had multiple gun possession charges against him too. So it's a reoccurring offense with him.
Right.
And what happened? What's happened with Vontaze Burfict? He's had problems, and he gets suspended here and there, and now he has done it. Where's the stuff for Frank Clark? I mean, is it because he's a Kansas City Chief now, and it doesn't matter, he's untouchable?
No,
like some of these players, I think, just to finish up the point I'm trying to make is, a lot of these players, I think, just because they're NFL players, and Roger Goodell wants to kind of see them out there still, they kind of blow it by this whole thing and still allow them to play, and they don't want to tackle this situation because it looks bad for the NFL, but I think it looks worse by this popping up in the headlines.
By allowing them.
And the media, for some reason, too, they bring it up quick, like in the Sports Center, 15 minutes, and then it's gone. It's not being a constant thing that should be talked about.
Really what it is, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be talked about in public. It doesn't have to be. The biggest problem is that the NFL isn't consistent with their punishments. It ranges up and down the scale, and for more serious crimes or events that happen, they should be coming harder on them than, like you were kind of mentioning, like before, like a guy like, okay, Vontaze Burfict, yes, he lowered his head a lot and speared guys, and that's why he kept getting suspended. But you have guys that are literally beating women outside of the game. And those guys only have a couple game suspension, then they're back in, or something like that. They kind of they try to get past that because they see that as a bigger hurdle to get over. So they want to get it over really quick, get it out of the way. Let's forget about that even happened, and we'll concentrate on the minor stuff because we'll blow that up. We'll blow up the guy that speared, receiver last week. We're going to really hone in on that. And what just happened after this happened? Well, there was a shooting, but we're going to talk about it. You know what I mean? So the NFL obviously doesn't want that media circus about those big major things, and that's why you see them sweeping all these things under the carpet. Another thing to watch, though, is the bigger the name, the more likely it gets swept under the carpet.
Exactly.
Because those big names, and I'm not saying any of these players were in trouble or whatever before, but I'm just going to pick a huge name right now, J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt is one of the biggest names in the league, even though he's getting closer to the end of his career, but nonetheless, bigger name. DeAndre Hopkins, all these guys. So big names. If they were to do something, let's just say 3 weeks before the season, something they did, you know what I mean? Whether it be a gun possession and a shooting happened, and then all of a sudden, big news, J.J. Watt, what happened, blah, blah, blah. We don't really know all the details yet, because you hear that a lot too.
Yeah.
We don't know a lot of the details yet, but we're going to get down to it, and then you see how the media just doesn't really talk much about it.
Yeah.
Because it's a big name.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, an illegal hit happens. Vontaze Burfict, oh my God, this is ridiculous. You need to get after this guy. You can't let this go. Get on him, suspend him for the year, blah, blah, blah. All the attention is about something that didn't really happen that's not major. Mm-hmm. But because of a big name guy, they're trying to get out from underneath that. And this happens all the time. Mm-hmm. It happens all the time. And everybody gets distracted and honed in on the player that did an illegal hit versus the player that actually shot somebody by accident or something. So the NFL, I know this is their tactic, their way to try to bypass and get out of that, all that circulating bad news about the NFL and everything. But you know what? It's just like what you were saying, Jim, is that the NFL really needs to come down on those major situations that happen, those major occurrences. Domestic violence is nothing to be joking about. Domestic violence, and you hear the NFL, Roger Goodell has stood up at the podium many times say, we don't stand for domestic violence, we are very against it, blah, 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 blah. We're against the shooting, we're against the domestic violence, we're against everything, right? But you need to show it. You can't just sit up there on the podium and keep saying that you're against it, and then let it kind of just, we're going to forget about that. We're going to only give that player an 8-game suspension.
Everybody will forget about it. We'll invest $1 billion in research into that.
Yeah, over time we'll forget about that, and then we're back on track again. No, you have to make that important. Make that an effort right there. So if anybody commits domestic violence going forward, they might have to double think that. I mean, my career could be jeopardized if I beat my girlfriend, if I beat my wife, if I have a gun and I make a stupid decision at a nightclub or at a shopping mall or whatever. So those situations need to be in the forefront. I feel like the NFL, if they take it upon themselves to not only be consistent and come down harshly on those major situations, crimes, then I think the media, they're going to publicize it, but I feel like the crowd that watches, the fans that watch the NFL, that follow it, they wouldn't be so much enraged about the NFL and how they go about these decisions that they make. This is a big problem for the NFL, always has been. Way back in the early years in the NFL, you never heard anything. 70s, 80s, it was kind of like, there's no bad news. The NFL's great. All the players are doing what they got to do. Literally, they swept so many crimes and trash, they swept right underneath the carpet, and nobody could be the wiser. Now, it's more publicized, it's more media-driven, it's a bigger story for everybody. Now it's out there. So now that it's already out there, you can't hide it anymore in the NFL. Right. The NFL, it's upon you to take the necessary steps, stand up for what's right, and punish these crimes harshly. and be consistent in your punishments. You can't because, let's just say, because Kareem Hunt. I love the guy. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not trying to bag on him. But anyway, using Kareem Hunt in the situation that he had, where he kicked a woman on the ground, that type of thing. That was a perfect opportunity for the NFL to take a stand and say, you know what, no more. That's it. 1 year suspension, automatic, without pay, and we'll reevaluate. If you put in for reinstatement next year, we'll reevaluate it, and then we'll think about bringing you back to the league. But you got to take necessary classes, you know what I mean, to get through this and all that. Until the NFL takes a big stand with these major, crimes that happen and everything, and being consistent about it, nobody's going to take the NFL seriously. Nobody.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that bothers me, and again, we're going to move on from this in a bit, but what always bothers me is how whatever the narrative that's kicking around now is what they want to go with. And I overall am one of those people that I want to try to make the world a better place. I want to make the NFL better or whatever. But if you're going to say one thing, you should cover it amongst the whole circle with everybody. You know what I mean? You can't be telling me about, we're going to stand in unity together with everything and this, and you're trying to tell me that we should appreciate this type of person and that person and this person and blah, blah, blah. But then, meanwhile, you have the bad seeds in the NFL that are doing these things. You have, like I said, plenty of legal gun owners that don't run out the nightclubs, that don't take them out in their cars, are not getting pulled over for going 89 and a 60 at 1 o'clock in the morning.
And when they do, though, they have
a
a legal.
There was an Alder Rojas too that got Joe in California for driving drunk through the whole thing.
But but the people that have legally concealed and carry license and everything, cop comes up. Yes, I do have a gun, officer. Do you have concealed and carry? Yes, I do. Here's my license. Here's this, that, and the other thing. They check the gun. They make sure the serial number matches their license and everything. And everything is okay. Okay, here's your gun back. You know why I pulled you over, and then they go about their business. So, so that's the necessary things that they need, that players and what have you need to do going forward.
Right. And then just again, those people that are clearly violating the policy, I can see it right there. They're clearly violating the policy. I just want to see the repercussions happen for them and treat everybody that way. Again, if they're doing certain things, they violate the policy. Boom, it's done. And again, to clean up the image too, because you expect us fans to sit here and just pay our tickets and watch your games on the TV nonstop, things like that. And I understand you're trying to maybe in this particular type of deal, maybe you don't want to do harshly too much on guns because some people might think that these guys are against guns now, blah blah. And I can understand, I guess, to an extent. But if people even think about that, if you're not the NFL coming down on all guns, we should ban all guns. It's a violation of your particular policy. If you work at a job and you're doing this on the out, if they read about you in the paper getting pulled over, possession of marijuana all over, having a Uzi in your car,
you're fired.
Multiple guys, stuff like this. Dude, you're fired.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're a representative of us and stuff. When you're out
well,
there.
You used to be.
It used to be, yeah. and there you go. I mean, you can't be doing that. And they have people there to help you out to get that information. We should be making smarter choices there. But yeah, that's something that again has bothered me for a while. We had to talk about it here. I think it's something that's still going through the NFL. It's been happening for 20 some odd years, probably longer than that. Like Joe said,
right.
You don't get to see that so much in the older game, and I'm sure there was problems there, but you don't see it
older,
because now local papers are posting their news to their websites that you see on the internet that everybody has access to. So I mean, like I said, the one was Rolling Hills, like Cleveland, or Rolling Hills, Ohio, or some shit. And then the other one was Cleveland. That's one thing. That's a bigger city. But Rolling Hills, wherever that is, where is that? And I don't know, but it comes up on there, ping, and then you can find it.
And information gets around in seconds.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's just instantly there. Now that you have social media, you got Facebook, you got Instagram, you got Twitter, you got all these things to obtain information. And on top of that, it's just like, it's right at your fingertips now. So the NFL can't hide anything. As soon as a reporter finds out or an investigator finds out, it's going to be all over the globe.
Yeah, Absolutely. All right, it's time to move on, Joe. I'm really amped up. I've been drinking this
I'm
Phantom
glad.
Freeze from Raise Energy. Why don't you tell everybody here what Raise Energy is all about here?
Raise Energy is an amazing energy drink, and that's pretty much what I'm all on. I already finished my can. I'm ready to go. Today I had Voodoo.
All right.
All right. You know what flavor that is? No, you don't. Neither do I.
No.
But
it's
it's amazing. Yeah, it's kind of citrusy. It was a little orange type of flavor, but it was fantastic. And the one great thing about Raise Energy is it's one of the only energy drinks that I've ever had where, like, not only do I get a burst of energy, like for pre-workout, or you just need to get through the day, you need to get through the last few hours of your job, this is the way to go because there's no crash afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get tired after the energy wears off. Yeah, I kind of felt like okay, I'm not as energetic as I was, but I'm not tired, I'm not drowsy, I could still continue on with my day. I mean, this is the way to go. Zero sugar, it's got amino acids in it, it's got electrolytes in it, it's got everything you need.
That's the thing, too. It hydrates you while it gives you the energy.
Absolutely.
It has less sodium than the others, too, that I've noticed. It's zero down the boards, so you feel good about it. Just about 30 minutes before you're about to work out or conquer life, down one of these bad
Yes,
boys,
sir.
and you're feeling good. But the best thing about it is you can get them at your local vitamin shops, but also through us at Football on the Know. Here, you go to repsports.com, and you put in a promo code RAISE'EMUP. That is Raise 'em Up. RAZEMUP. Raise 'em up. Put the promo code in, and you will get a discount there. Plus, they're doing the deal right now where you get there's 5
Sample
powder
pack.
sample packs, which I've had already too. That's what I've had of the Voodoo, and that is good too because one of those things too, they get kind of chalky if you mix the water. You like 8 ounces of water, you put the powders in there and mix it up. I usually don't like that crap. It
Right.
just, this one was good. Gave me my energy. I'm ready to go, and it was water. Just bam.
Yep, right
Good.
down the hatch.
And it tastes good. But Raise
But yeah.
Energy, go to repsports.com, promo code Raise 'em Up, and start the rebellion, the Raise Rebellion here against other.
Become part of the Raise Rebellion. Let's
Yeah,
go.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Jonah notified me of some news that happened earlier today, and then some big news amongst college sports. And I don't usually talk college sports and stuff. I haven't watched a lot of my college team. I'm a
kind of
Michigan
a big
fan in
deal.
a while. But I've definitely been paying attention to some of this stuff too here, and it's another topic I think that a lot of people are interested in, very debatable, and it is about college players being able to make money off their likeness here.
And their names.
So,
yeah.
and this has been a debate amongst the NCAA. Should colleges pay the players? A lot of people are like, oh yeah, they gotta pay because what they're doing, they're making money for the college. They're getting
Merchandise.
recruits.
Merchandise.
Excuse me, to go there. Merchandise.
Tickets.
You know, they got the video game and blah blah. And I've always been a person to say that too bad they go to college. They got you know, the scholarships. They get
Paid
food
scholarship,
and things like that. A lot of perks by being a great player and being able to play for a particular team. And I think, you know, likeness and stuff, maybe if they do games and stuff like that, everybody gets an equal cut of, you know, being part of that particular thing. But I was definitely dead set against colleges somehow coming into the thing that they had to pay these players. And now they've agreed to a deal. Now I think that players on their own can be able to make some money on the side due to their likeness. Is that correct, Joe?
Well, yeah, it's not so much the colleges aren't
Right.
paying them. It's
Right.
anytime somebody wants to use their likeness, their name, you know, their face, whatever, you know what I mean? And not to mention, like, their number in college. Like, if they wanted to make, like, a video game, and that's something else we could talk about, is in 2023, maybe, everybody. I know, I'm excited. I can't wait for it to happen. But we're hearing rumors that the NCAA college football game is coming back. That's right. It's in the works. It's coming back, and the likely date for it to come out is sometime in 2023.
Yeah.
Pretty excited.
It is exciting. It's funny because
So
there's
excited.
still a lot of buzz even about that last NCAA game that they had.
Oh,
I saw it at one of the stores and it was still running for like $30.
yeah, with Denard Robinson
Yeah,
on the
Bernard
cover.
Robinson on the
Yeah.
cover. I'm like, man, this game still has some serious value.
It's
to it.
amazing.
A lot of people love it.
Yeah, a lot of people love it and can't wait for it to come back. Hopefully they go through with this. We know that it's still in the development stages right now, but they're saying that they might be able to get it done and released by 2023. So hopefully it's all true. Hopefully it's all true.
Right. Now, as far as the money, though, goes and stuff like that, I mean, I haven't looked at any of this whole agreement when it pertains, but
Yeah.
our colleges are going to be able to have any type of way to make money themselves off
Yes.
of these players too. I mean,
Not off the
jumping in,
players. No, you're not going to be able to make money off the players. They can just
They
just
do
make
it
money
as it
regardless.
is, regardless.
They make money off of
But-
merchandise, off of ticket sales, just
Right.
like anything else. You know what I mean? So they're not necessarily making money off the players. Now, this is that was an angle that a lot of people took and said, hey, well, the players are playing for your college, and because they're playing for your college and you guys are doing so well, take Alabama, for example. How dominant have they been for how many years now? And all those players that have come through that were great players. You know, you look at Derrick Henry, who was an Alabama alum. You know, Josh Jacobs was an Alabama alum. Devontae Smith, who just got drafted, Alabama alum. All these big-time names that are going into the NFL, they, in a sense, made money for the colleges because of how well they were playing, because of how, I want a Derrick Henry jersey. They would buy Derrick Henry jersey, but all the proceeds went to the college because that's how they made money. So now, I feel like this is a little bit more fair because now colleges are going to make their money regardless. They got merch sales, they got all that, like we said. But now the players are going to be able to get, I don't think it's going to be anything huge. I think it's going to be a small amount of money that they make on the side. You know, if somebody wants to use them in the next college football game, if somebody wants to buy their jersey now, those proceeds are not only going to go, part of it's going to go to the college because it's their team, but the other portion is going to go to that player that sold the jersey. You know what I mean? So
now, as part of this deal, does this also mean, because you remember they were getting fines for like signing autographs here and there or accepting meals or something like that from somebody?
Yeah.
Now is that now null and void? Like they will no longer get fined for things like that?
I
mean,
still-
'cause it's a sort of payment or
I still
those
feel like-
ridiculous rules that they have.
I know they're ridiculous.
You know,
rules.
it's like, oh,
But I
hey,
still-
man, come on, I'll buy you your Big Mac today. You're like, oh, wait, no.
No.
You might get
Your-
fined.
your
and
money
kicked out
is
of
no
school
good here.
if you do that.
There's
you know
no
what I
good
mean?
here. You take good job, Brian.
Yeah, you know, I don't get that.
But no, I think for that, those same NCAA rules apply for, like, you can't take, you know, food as payment or something like that. But as far as the autographs go,
Yeah.
that's going to be a portion of you're going to get proceeds from that autograph. So that's still
So you
kind
could
of
do
the
that,
same
but
thing.
yeah. I just don't want to see still fines like you you make money off of an autograph session, or if you decide to go, I'm going
No,
to
that's
this
fine.
bar down the road and I'm doing that.
No,
But if all of a sudden
they're
somebody
able
comes
to
over
do
and
that.
buys me a beer, they're like, yup, but somebody bought you a beer, so now we're going to fine you this much. For
I don't
taking
think they
it.
can fine them for that.
Yeah, I'm glad because
They
they,
can't
would
do
do
that.
things like that. They were.
Yeah,
they were doing
for
things like
beers?
that. Well, things like that. Like it was for
No,
meals. People were
cars.
buying things. Cars are
Cars.
major, but little things like that. They'd find little loopholes and stuff like that.
Cars,
And so
hookers, you name it.
that's a whole other thing than where they dig deep into those scandals.
Alcohol.
buddy. That's part of recruiting.
That's it.
That's out in the coaches.
Hey.
And they need to go into that.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. If you
Wow.
can get the 5-star recruit and that's all you got to do, whatever.
That's all you got to do. Whatever. Joe's open to that. Here you go. Here, you want to come by? Go into local, hangout. This is where it is. Yeah, they have poles there. That's something new.
I don't know where those keys came from. They're
Hey,
just there.
These women had clothes on yesterday. I don't know what happened. Definitely. So, I mean, that's something big. That's something up and coming happening for these college
And that's
players.
that's
God bless them for that, definitely.
tomorrow. I think it goes in place.
Yeah, July 1st
tomorrow.
is the day it goes into effect, so we'll see what happens. You'll be hearing about that on the radio out there.
I'm curious to see how it all gets broken down now, because you're going to have, just like in the pros, like you got some high, like Tom Brady jerseys, tons of them get sold, so a portion of that goes to Tom Brady and all that thing. Now, what's going to happen with college, like you're going to have these dynamite players, and there's a ton of them. Like it's not just the guys that are in Alabama or Ohio State or Michigan or USC or anything like that. Throughout the whole country, there's a lot of really, really good players. So you're going to have merchandise sales. It's going to be interesting to see how that all unfolds. Who's going to be the top-selling jersey? You know what I mean? You're going to see those rankings and everything.
Yeah. I mean, that would be really interesting for that. Who knows? Maybe I'll start watching college football again.
Yes!
All right, anyways, but thanks a lot for joining us here tonight. Make sure you guys like the video, share it out there. Become a know-it-all. Join our Facebook group, Football on the No Show. Give us a like there, too, as well. And go to our YouTube page. It's Football on the No Show as well. Hit the subscribe button. Tackle the notification bell. And become a know-it-all. All right, so let's move on to our next topic here, Joe. Look, I'm rambling. This is...
I'm telling you, it's good.
And I don't feel like that weird fuzzy buzz either. I feel good.
No.
I feel refreshed.
I'm not jittery. I'm not jittery
I need a glass
either.
of water right now.
I'm not jittery.
I don't have dry mouth,
I'm not jittery.
Yeah, exactly. But next is something I noticed again. It was one of our groups that we're friends with. Somebody posted this out here. And let me bring it up here. It is Jason La Canfora.
Canfora.
Yeah.
Jason
I
La
don't know why I
Canfora.
can't say it. Jason La Canfora.
There you go.
Good
Good job.
His NFL coaches on the hot seat this year now. I think this list is some good coaches they bring up, but a lot of it is really suspect, Joe.
That's terrible.
Yeah, so
I'm sorry. Come on, Jason.
Yeah, what do you think about some of these?
Jason, did you really make this up, or did you have your son do this? Your 8-year-old son. I mean, that's what I need to know, because there's a couple of legitimate coaches on here that, they should be on the hot seat. They deserve to be on the hot seat, whatever. But let's be honest. I mean, guys like, was it Zach Taylor from the Bengals? Like, dude, the guy had his first season as a Bengals head coach. He didn't have Joe Burrow. He had nothing. He had Andy Dalton and an older A.J. Green who was injured and out for the whole year pretty much. And, he didn't have a lot. Offensive line was banged up. They didn't really have a good offensive line. They just had Joe Mixon at running back. Their defense was aging and not playing well. Then the second year comes in. They finally get their stud quarterback in Joe Burrow. So his second year looked a hell of a lot better until Burrow went down. They were at least competitive. Then this year, the Bengals, man, I think they could really surprise a lot of teams this year. Now that they got Joe Burrow coming back healthy, they not only did that, but A.J. Green moves on. Now they're moving with this youth movement now. Now you look at their offense. They got Tyler Boyd. They got T. Higgins, who last year had a pretty good rookie year, and now he looks to build upon that. Their offensive.
Jamar Chase right there, wide receiver now, right? You said that to go with Joe Burrow.
Yeah,
right? So that's the combination there. That's the over-the-top weapon, youthful weapon they have for a while.
Yeah, Jamar Chase.
And AJ Green.
This past draft, coming out of LSU, his same alma mater as Joe Burrow. Teammates, they have tremendous chemistry. So I can only imagine how well they'll be able to play with each other. And then on top of that, you got Jonah Williams, who was out all year last year. They drafted him to be their true left tackle. Never got to play a snap. He's coming back this year to strengthen this offensive line even further. The defensive side of the ball, they've made some changes on the defensive side of the ball, strengthen that up. So the Bengals, I'm telling you, they could surprise some teams this year. So I cannot believe that Zach Taylor is on this hot seat list. And that's amazing to me. Another one that I cannot believe is Cliff Kingsbury. Why? Why is Cliff Kingsbury on this list? I mean, look at what they've done so far in terms of personnel. Cliff Kingsbury and company, and was it Steve Keim, the GM? They've managed to build this roster up to now 2 years in, now going into his third year. They have one of the best receivers in the NFL that they traded for peanuts, and DeAndre Hopkins. They got they have an offensive line that they kind of rebuilt. They traded for one of the best centers in football, in Rodney Hudson. I mean, there's a lot to like with this team. And defensively, they've really focused in on defense this offseason, whether it be the free agency or the draft, and they've made that a hell of a lot stronger. Bringing J.J. Watt over from the Texans, a veteran presence there on the D-line, and pairing him up with none other, one of the sack leaders, one of the most amazing pass rushers there is in the league, in Chandler Jones. Woo! I tell you what, this is another up-and-coming team. They just managed to make their roster better and better so far the last couple of seasons. This third year, they could really push for themselves for that division.
Right. Some of these, like you said, even Zach Taylor, you take a look back at him real quick again, too. Only a few years since they brought him in here, and I think it's unfair for some of these guys that have been here too new. You need a few years to get it going. I mean, look at John Gruden that asked for basically like a 10-year type of plan here for the Raiders. These guys don't need that long, but you've got the other guys on this list like Matt Nagy, a lot longer of a leash here, and he's made more mistakes here than Zach Taylor has, and he didn't have his starting quarterback in here for most of the season last year. And when he was out there, they were looking pretty good. Now you have the additional weapons that they have, and so you're thinking that they're going to take that step forward here. But if they don't, even they just need a few more growing pains to hit the reset button. on just having your basically one full year with your starting quarterback, rookie, now sophomore year for the quarterback, but really kind of almost a rookie season for him in the sense, because
he played half the year.
Half the year. It's not fair. Then you're messing around with him, learning a new playbook or whatever, hitting a reset, and that's where so many teams make so many mistakes
and they
keep doing that. Cliff Kingsbury again started off getting his Kyler Murray, his quarterback that he needed, hitting the reset.
Moved on from Josh Rosen.
Just like that. Came in there, showed him that.
He's not their guy.
Chandler Jones, the silent hero for them on defense, wasn't there all last year, but still, even that, the team stepped up and performed. You had Son Riddick for them at that point, and he stepped up for them. He's on with a different team now. But again, DeAndre Hopkins there again, the weapons all around him. We've listed so many times over. The running back situation. Now J.J. Watt on there too to even help out a little bit defense to alleviate maybe some of the pressure to get him open when Chandler Jones is getting double teamed, or maybe J.J. Watt gets a double team and then Chandler's open. Just a really big, exciting. This team is just up and coming. And the thing about this NFL right now, I think for some of these divisions, even you talk about the way the Bengals could potentially play, a lot of these divisions seem a lot closer than they were in prior years. You would always almost count on Steelers, blah, 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 this team, and they
Green Bay.
Yeah. Now they're a lot closer. It could be any team, especially in that division. I'm with you on those two guys.
Okay, so
they should not be on the list.
I want to touch on something.
Sure,
now that you brought Matt Nagy up,
yeah.
And we've been very against Matt Nagy even having a job as head coach because he just doesn't seem to get his offense rolling. Now, here's something that's interesting is Zach Taylor and Matt Nagy have the same amount of tenure. Matt Nagy's only been there for 2 years. So, and if that's the case, if I'm seeing what Zach Taylor can do right now versus what Matt Nagy can do, I'm sorry, Zach Taylor to me shows a hell of a lot more promise as a head coach than Nagy does. And people are going to say, oh, well, Matt Nagy, he had his offense wasn't that great when he got there and everything. Hey, they drafted Mitch Trubisky. They had him there for Matt Nagy and him to work with him and to mold him and everything. And they're saying, oh, well, look what he did with the Chiefs. They had Mahomes and they were killing it. He's going to do the same thing for Chicago. You cannot make those comparisons. It's ridiculous. You just drafted a rookie quarterback in Mitch Trubisky that had 1 year starting experience in college. Nothing. And you expected this guy to magically change him into a Pro Bowl type of quarterback with a team that was still trying to build an offense? It's absurd. Mind you, his first year, he had Vic Fangio as his defensive coordinator. And Vic Fangio had one of the best defenses in the league in Chicago. Was absolutely amazing. After Matt Nagy's first year as a college coach, Vic Fangio left him to become the head coach of the Broncos. And what happened after that, Matt Nagy suffered. It seemed like even though they brought in Chuck Pagano as a D coordinator to try to save that defense, as talented as it was, the big trade of Khalil Mack with all these big-time players that they had on the defensive side of the ball never amounted to anything. So this defense didn't play as well since Vic Fangio has been gone. Matt Nagy hasn't been able to make up the difference on offense and rack up some numbers, and get scores. So because of that, I know it's a short stint, like 2 years, but I'm not seeing the progression from Matt Nagy as a head coach. And because of that, I think he deserves to be on the hot seat going into his third year. So he needs to make something happen, and he needs to push for the playoffs. I think that anything short of the playoffs this year, Nagy's got to be looked at as one of these guys that potentially get fired.
Man, playoffs. Yeah, it's like
got to show progression, and he hasn't shown nothing.
He's regressed. Now he handed over. You remember last year, handed over to play calling.
Bill Lazor.
Yeah.
The offensive coordinator, and he was forced to. Let's get that straight.
Well, yeah,
he didn't want to.
But I mean, even in the beginning, in a sense, when he joined the team, it seemed like it was a kind of cool fit. Was making it kind of work. But it seemed like as the team went on throughout the years, he did less with Tariq Cohen, which I would think was surprising too, because I think when that guy has the ball in his hands, he's pretty electrifying and can make a lot of big plays for them. It seemed like he eliminated him completely from the playbook, and then just like you said, not having Vic Fangio there to control the defense, not having the ability to rely on the defense, much like the team did when they made that Super Bowl run, right? Rex Grossman at the helm. Same thing with Mitch Trubisky now. Just needed to be able to control the game, have the defense get the other team to force some turnovers or get them off the field quick and be able to run it out. Been unsuccessful. You brought him there to get yourself over the hump to compete with the Green Bay
To groom the
Packers.
quarterback
And
is
what
really
happened with the Packers there and the Vikings? They were able to get some guys, retool, and the Packers didn't really have that. They had a little bit of a lull and then jumped right back up. After Mike McCarthy left, they were able to get Matt LaFleur there, had a little stump, like kind of hiccup, and then bang, 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 and then came right back in there. That was their time for the Bears to strike. They were feeling it. They thought they had it, and now it's slipping away from them. And now you got Green Bay right there, and they're probably they're probably excited right now what's going on with Green Bay and the Aaron Rodgers saga. That's what they're hoping and praying for right now.
I think a lot of people there are a little worried right now.
I don't know. I'm just like, please, just let him go. Maybe that would help. Maybe that's what they're doing. They're like begging for this to happen. But again, really competitive division minus the Detroit Lions. But again, Matt Nagy, I agree. Time to go.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is we'll just run right into the Packers now. Is Matt LaFleur? I'm sorry, I don't even know why he's on the list.
He's on this list too. See,
he's like a Zach Taylor.
Zimmer.
Matt LaFleur actually surprised the hell out of me as a head coach. I thought for sure, coming from Tennessee as an offensive coordinator, to come to Green Bay, and for Green Bay to completely decide, hey, this is our guy. We have to sign him. They bring him in, and in the first couple of years as a head coach, he's made this team more balanced than they ever have been. With Mike McCarthy there at the helm, he knew what he had in Aaron Rodgers, obviously, and an MVP candidate almost every single year. And he loved to throw the ball with Aaron Rodgers. He very rarely ran the ball. He very rarely made it a balanced offense. So teams could have just kind of rely on the fact that, hey, Aaron's going to throw again. We just don't know where it's going. But he's throwing. You know what I mean? So Matt LaFleur kind of, when he came in, he made this more balanced. Utilizing Aaron Jones in the backfield and throwing the ball to Devontae Adams and the rest of the cast. Because they still haven't gotten a true number 2 receiver on that offense. But he did a phenomenal job with making it balanced and taking a lot of pressure off of Aaron Rodgers and not having to put everything on Aaron's shoulders in order to win, in order to rack up points. So Matt LaFleur, I think he's done a tremendous job. Should not even be on this hot seat list. I just don't know where the thought process is there. And I'll jump to Brian Flores right now with the Dolphins.
Can I just touch on him real quick?
You can.
Matt LaFleur quick
Yeah.
about this whole thing. Again, because I was, Matt LaFleur, I didn't get it. Because, again, when you looked at Tennessee's offense, it was, ranked in the, low 20s or something like that. And then he had Derrick Henry there.
He didn't run.
Couldn't run the ball.
Didn't run.
Set him up in a wildcat for some reason, and controlling the wildcat all the time didn't make sense. So I was really skeptical about it when it came in there. Mm-hmm. So when he did go in there and was able to do that with Aaron Jones and make it more of a balanced deal, I was kind of surprised and taken back in how they were able to make it work. Now, when you looked at the thing that he had, his relationship with Aaron Rodgers, I think now Green Bay can kind of use that against Aaron Rodgers in this whole holdout type of deal, because Aaron Rodgers has been known to be that type of arrogant type of guy, always with that chip on his shoulder, blah, blah, doesn't get along. You saw it with Matt LaFleur and stuff. He's like, oh, no, he wants me to not do this and not have less control at the line, blah, blah. You heard about the problems he had with Mike McCarthy. Maybe with Matt LaFleur as well. You got this going on. Matt LaFleur can turn this whole thing around on him and say, well, Aaron Rodgers is stubborn, he is what he is, and it's hard to work with him, and blah, blah. And we're going to continue on doing what we're doing, and we're still going to be competitive with or without him.
Well,
and I think that's the way they should take it.
LaFleur really wants him back because he knows what he has in Aaron Jones.
Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah. Or Aaron Rodgers, sorry. But Matt LaFleur loves him.
For them, I mean,
he definitely wants him back because he knows that Jordan Love isn't ready. You're not going to bring in this kid after 1 year of learning under Aaron Rodgers to be just like Aaron Rodgers. It's not going to happen. He's going to make mistakes his first time out as the true starting quarterback, just like everybody else goes through. So if Green Bay is thinking that they can stick it out because they think they have the leverage, they're like, well, we have Jordan Love in our back pocket, but that's the whole reason why you're in this problem, isn't it? In this predicament. So Jordan Love, if you really believe in Jordan Love, Green Bay, and you say, oh, we can wait on Aaron Rodgers to come to us, Aaron Rodgers saying, well, basically, fuck you guys. I'm doing whatever I want to do. If you don't want to listen to what I have to say as a MVP, multiple MVP, as a pro, as a guy who deserves the respect to at least listen to some of the advice that he wants to give, then so be it.
Yeah, and the whole thing is, it's tough with Matt LaFleur too. Again, because you want to think that the head coach has a say when you are going into the draft. So when Aaron Rodgers wants to say, Gutekunst is the guy that went and got, Love, and that's the whole deal, how much of that influence was Matt LaFleur saying, listen, I don't know about Aaron Rodgers, I want to start to move on, this guy can run my offense better, possibly, blah, blah, blah. And then making those decisions to go for him in the first round, does that create the turmoil there? And it's tough for a head coach to try and separate himself from the GM or the player. And I know they want to try and make it work for all of them, but I mean that's what I think where Matt LaFleur, where some people say he could be potentially on this cut list, on the hot seat, because he's caught in that balance. If it's not Gutekunst and Aaron Rodgers not going to go, who's the guy that's going to be on the chopping block for this situation in Green Bay? And why I think some people, not us really, for me even at this point, are ready to put him on the chopping block.
Not at all. It's not. And Matt LaFleur doesn't have a say in the draft. He has some say as a head coach in the roster that he's trying to build. But in the end, it's the GM, and then after the GM, it's the owner that gets final decision. So GM's paid to assemble the team and listen to some advice from the coaching staff and the head coach. But then in the end, he has final say of who he wants, who he foresees to add to that roster. So,
and I think when some of these things, they see that Green Bay went further in the playoffs again, almost making were they in the championship game last year? I think it was. They were in the championship game, right? The NFC championship. Did they make it that far? Or did they get cut early? No. I know they were in the playoffs these past two seasons and looked really good. One of the good offenses in the league. And I think that's when some people say, well, you've got this talent, you got there, and you failed both times, then maybe you should shut it down. And I think that's just the wrong kind of aspect to look at some of these teams. How many teams have you seen, especially in the 80s, 90s, that have been great consistently? I mean, look at the Chargers. Chargers under, I think maybe Schottenheimer and some of those guys, and Philip Rivers, they were there in the playoffs continuously every single season. I mean, for them to just all of a sudden cut the coach down every year and knock him down every time and hit the reset, I don't think you would have seen some of those teams make it back there to the playoffs after some of that.
The funny thing about that situation is Marty Schottenheimer was one of the most successful head coaches to consistently make the playoffs. Every year he was in the playoffs. Every single year. Just about. I mean, there was very few rare occurrences where his team did not make it, whether he be with the head coaching the Chiefs or the Chargers. He was just an amazing head coach. And he still managed to get fired.
No, the Bengals have been known for making the playoffs consistently. Remember that? Even, too, when we were talking about their head coach being fired, Marvin,
Jones?
Marvin, isn't it? Jones, is it?
Marvin Jones.
And being fired eventually after, being so many seasons and be happy with, we're happy with just being this and doing this. We've seen him go farther, have a longer tenure at a head coaching position. For you guys to try and cut their jobs down early, I think it's dumb. Especially
it depends on the situation, I feel like. It really depends on the situation. Look at Matt Nagy, I don't see any progression, so it's like, why are we going to extend this any further? Maybe it's time to make a change. This is the year that he has to prove something. He's got to show progression. If he doesn't show any, and they don't make the playoffs, and they don't even push for the division, and they're just, why sustain it any longer? Time to make a change.
Did you want to move on to Brian Flores?
Brian Flores, yeah. Brian Flores, this is another one that I could get the argument that he might be on the hot seat, but at the same time, in my mind, I don't see why he would be on the hot seat just yet. Listen, Brian Flores, when he came to the Dolphins, they literally had nothing. They had an injured Ryan Tannehill that was returning from injury. They had really no offensive line. The defense was they had a couple of nice players, one of which they ended up trading away to the Steelers. And it was almost like when he came in, the roster was just not fulfilled enough. They didn't have enough talent. So where do you start? You got to break down right down to the foundation and start rebuilding right back up. So for a coach to come in there and try to do all that, you got to give him a little extra time. So now what we've seen with Brian Flores coming in, bare bones. He traded away some big names too. He got rid of their left tackle. He got rid of they let their right tackle walk in free agency, who happened to be pretty good, in Juwan James. They traded Minkah Fitzpatrick, which everybody was stunned, me included. I could not believe they were trading him away, but they traded him away in his prime. So a lot of moves happened to not only get rid of salary, gain some draft capital, and to utilize all of that going forward with salary cap to build this roster. Now, fast forward it to now, they got a really young offensive line that looks like it could, if it further develops this offseason, could be another impressive unit. Myles Gaskin, one of the running backs in the backfield who came out of nowhere as an undrafted free agent, looks like he could be that starter for them going forward. Now they have receivers. They heavily invested in the receiver core. They drafted Jalen Waddle, who looks to be impressive out of Alabama. They have Devontae Parker also coming back. They got Preston Williams, who got injured last year. He's coming back, so now you got some nice three receiver core right there to utilize. And then on defense, very young and very impressive defense. One of the best secondaries in the NFL that doesn't really get talked about enough. Byron Jones on one side, Xavier Howard on the other. They're investing heavily in those young safeties that they have. The linebackers are not only in their prime, but they're playing out of their minds. So they got a lot going on for them right now. Let's see what they can do. Tua, they drafted Tua to be their franchise quarterback. A lot of people are speculating about him. A lot of rumors around Tua. Dolphins aren't real happy with them. They might have been looking to trade him. I don't buy all that. I mean, you don't invest that high a draft pick in getting a quarterback and then giving up on him before the year's over with. So now that they got Tua in there, all these young pieces, now they're coming together. Let's see how much chemistry they can build this time around in this offseason. They could be another team. I know it sounds funny, but they could be another team in the AFC East that's going to compete for that division.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you take a look at that, again, like when you say some of these teams, they're looking, it seems like some, I know it's a lot of fans the same way too. If you haven't seen this team been relevant in a while, it's easy to dog the Dolphins. People last time they remember them being good was probably back with Dan Marino and stuff like that. So when you see the Dolphins, they're just easy to kind of break down. They're like, oh, Tua, no, they just want to trade him. He's no good. Oh, he had a bad practice. He threw multiple interceptions. This guy just sucks. It's garbage. But then all of a sudden he came back the next practice and it did better. And that's the thing. And that's why you practice and have these off-season camps and stuff. You try and do it. Some days you're going to have bad days. Some days you have better days. It's how you react to those bad days and step up the next day, and that's what you want to see. And you don't want to link those bad days together back and forth.
Right.
But Brian Flores, again, I think even kind of people paying attention to under him because a former coach under Bill Belichick, he has been known now to make some of these, I would say, quotations, controversial moves, with things like making Fitzpatrick, you're upset, you don't want to be here, fine, go, bye, see you later, we'll get some picks for you, thank you, see it. He ain't afraid to let him walk away, just like once the Patriots say, hey, you want to make money, you want to do this, or whatever, you're not happy, go. We'll find somebody to fill your spot and play hard and without dealing with all that crap. We don't need any of it. And he does that. And then I even brought up the question here with Brian Null last week, who's a Dolphins fan, and about the Ryan Fitzpatrick putting him late in the game and pulling Tua out, and for the bigger moment had Ryan Fitzpatrick in to get that game-winning drive against the Raiders and stuff. I'm like, is that a questionable move? Yeah, maybe, but you see some college coaches do it, some other NFL coaches just do things like that. Maybe Tua just wasn't ready. This is that moment for him to step up and get it now. They said, Fitzpatrick ain't here anymore, buddy. This is your time. Step up. You're our guy. We believe in you, and let's do this. You know what I mean? And now, if anything happens, because again, you think about the injuries that he had previously for Alabama.
Major hip injury.
That's why you get somebody like Jacoby Brissett to back him up, that knows the system, to be right there and back him up and be a solid backup for him.
And
who can play and has been a starter in the league.
And help develop him further. You know what I mean? Any kind of problems that he's going through, it's great to have that veteran presence at the quarterback position to help bounce off ideas. What are you seeing that I'm not seeing when I'm out on the field? You know what I mean? Questions like that go a long way into learning further about the NFL and how to read defenses. And I can only imagine that in the film room how huge this is going to be for Tua's development. Because he can sit right next to Jacoby Brissett and ask him questions as they're watching film. Why did he blitz here? Or not to say that Tua doesn't understand that, But at the NFL level, where everybody's on their A game every single week, you're going to see a different type of defensive game plan every single week. It's all learning these nuances of the game that are going to help Tua grow even faster.
Yeah, plus, I mean, when you've got Robert Saleh running a defense in your division, you've got Bill Belichick there, and the way the Bills have been playing also on defense, it's pretty scary. You face all those guys twice a season.
Exactly.
So that's pretty tough.
And that's why you saw the Dolphins also help build their offensive weaponry. Even with the draft pick for a tight end in Logan Hunter, who they got, who is kind of like an underrated guy. You team him up now with Mike Gesicki, who actually showed out last season at tight end. That could be a nice little tandem there at tight end too. So now it looks like you're starting to build like a really tough offense to defend. And on top of that, you still got those youngsters in the defensive line, Raekwon Davis and Emmanuel Agba, Christian Wilkins. So they got a lot of young talent. And one of my favorite guys is Andrew Van Ginkel. I love his name, and I love his play in the field. Absolute great pass rusher. Underrated type of guy. Watch out for him.
Yeah, I mean, so when you take a look at this thing overall, again, Brian Flores, for a guy that lets some of those guys go, get the picks, and still be relevant, still even end up winning, not just tanking and all that other nonsense, you have something here. You're building,
right?
Especially with your young quarterback. Why hit the reset again? Because some of these guys, I don't understand hitting the reset button. Not only damages your quarterback and your team probably for most point for a lot of these here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Vic Fangio, again, I don't think he really had the team all together under his wing. I mean, there was controversy when he first got into it. Like you said to me before, he's more of a defensive coordinator. They just kind of brought him in there. Nothing really, for that head coaching type of role makes sense for them. Mike McCarthy, I think, is maybe the head coaching gig has maybe lived out. He's lived out his day for that whole deal. Maybe partially of an offensive coordinator type role if he wants to just flat out retire. And then David Culley's another interesting here.
I would say that's the
whole
most
thing.
interesting.
Isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, why? How did this guy get the job? I mean, that's my thing. Is honestly, out of all the candidates out there, Eric Bieniemy being one of the most sought-after offensive coordinators, who had tremendous success with the Chiefs, and most of that credit has to go to Andy Reid, right? Because he's helping these coaches, bringing these coaches up like Matt Nagy and really kind of helping them make a name for themselves. But nonetheless, Eric Bieniemy looked like the next coach to be hired after the playoffs were over. And it seemed like a lot of teams kind of got antsy. They kind of got tired of waiting for him to be available. And they go and do something like that. Houston being the last team to hire a head coach, it seemed like they got real desperate all of a sudden. They're like, we got to hire somebody. Who's left? There's this guy, he's on the Ravens staff. His name's David Culley. I mean, he's been almost like a career wide receiver coach. I mean, this guy going way back to his college days as a coach, spent many seasons, many years in college. I think he was the head coach at one point for UTEP. Then when he got into the NFL ranks, wide receiver coach, wide receiver coach, wide receiver coach, assistant coach, and wide receiver coach. The last 3 seasons with the Chiefs and the Ravens, and I just forgot who the other team was. But nonetheless, a wide receiver coach, pretty much. And then all of a sudden, he goes from that to now he's a head coach. Don't really see where the evidence is to be hiring a guy like David Culley. A lot of people like him. I know in NFL league circles, they speak highly of him and all this other jazz. But David Culley, I don't think, was the right guy for Houston. And you know what I really think? I think Houston, not only were they desperate, was because they couldn't get anybody to agree to come to them. Because with this Deshaun Watson situation of being very uncertain if he's ever going to play with Houston again, and if that's the case, and you look at this roster that's been majorly depleted, defensively and offensively, there's nothing real scary there. Offensive line's terrible. The defensive line got really weak now. No, they traded away one of their starting linebackers to the Dolphins, by the way. Ben Derek McKinney now is a Dolphin, so their middle linebacker they traded away. Why would you go there? So David Culley, good luck, brother. You're going to need it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the bigger question, or the bigger probably answer of that whole thing is no. I don't.
Why would you?
Yeah, because you saw the mess that it kind of unfolded into. You saw what Bill O'Brien had left it, and then fact that these guys, you get Casario over there later to maybe appease Deshaun Watson, but still a mess with what they've got going on.
Yes, sir.
So where were they going to go? I mean, who wanted to really go there? I mean, so
I would have. If you wanted to pay me, I would have gladly been the head coach.
Well, even for him to be on the hot seat, I mean, without even getting a chance, I guess. Yeah,
No.
I think it's hilarious though. You know, this whole thing.
But that's
It's
what
like-
that's what we're talking about here.
It's
Is
like,
because
we're gonna grab him, and then all of a sudden, like, but we might change by next year.
his
Change our mind.
right, because his lack of look at he's never been a coordinator, never been a coordinator in the NFL ever. He was a wide receivers coach his whole career pretty much.
And so that would be them admitting a mistake. They'd be like, all right, yeah, we messed up.
We're gonna wait till
doing
next year
again now and just change it again.
And by the way, we still don't have a GM. We're
Yeah.
good.
Oh man, but yeah, I guess that's a big
We're good.
miss for the Houston Texans here. But
I want to touch real quick on
Sure.
Vic Fangio. So,
Yeah, sure.
Vic Fangio, here's what I'm a little surprised about
and
with
this
the
is,
Broncos.
by the way, Jason La Canfora's Canfora. I can still
Canfora.
Jason La Canfora.
There you go. Good job.
List, by the way, not ours. There it is here.
But Vic Fangio,
CBS Sports.
I just want to talk about this for a
Sure.
second. He's completely a D coordinator. He's never been, a head coach, and he was given his first opportunity with Denver. But for the Denver Broncos as an organization, when John Elway was the GM, he agreed to hire him as the head coach, knowing very well that he's defensive minded only. He has no offensive ties whatsoever. And don't get me wrong, Vic Fangio is one of the best D coordinators there is in the game. But knowing that, and you need a quarterback, right? You still need a franchise quarterback. You still need someone to groom a quarterback. I'm surprised they didn't go an offensive-minded head coach. So that's where I was kind of surprised. That's where I think Vic Fangio, unfortunately, is going to kind of falter and end up getting fired. Is not because he's a bad coach, but because he just doesn't do anything with the offense. So what do you want him to do about it? You know what I mean? You need someone to help groom like a Drew Lock. And now that you have Teddy Bridgewater, it seems like, we'll just let them fight it out and may the best man win. Let's just see what happens.
Yeah, and I mean, you saw it there when Joe Flacco was there, and he was like, I'm not going to help this kid out even too. And he's like, this organization, he kind of called it out once he got there. He's like, this is a mess here. It sucks. He's like, they don't know what they're doing. He's like, unfortunately, blah, blah. And he was there to kind of make their defense better.
Right.
And, I don't think it has been
Which
much
it's
better,
been,
a little bit.
It depends how you look at it,
Yeah.
because
They keep
can you
flip-flopping.
run on them? No. That's what they got
Yeah.
really good at.
Yeah.
You can't run on them. Pass defense, they kind of been a little, subjective to that. You can throw the ball on them now. You used to not be able to, but you could run on them. Now it's like opposite, so a little weird. But after all this, and then this draft where they're picking 9th in the draft, so they're high enough to take one of these quarterbacks that they could groom and maybe be the face of their franchise, their future arm. They don't take a quarterback. So,
Yeah.
I mean, what is going on in Denver?
Yeah, I know.
Are you high?
Yep. Yeah, exactly, man. That's basically what happened with the Denver Broncos.
What else we
But
got?
we'll see. Well, I think that's everybody. Did we cover? No,
We did
didn't.
not.
We cover Mike
Zimmer.
Mike Zimmer. Again, we were talking about Green Bay, Chicago, all in this division. Now imagine if all these guys hit the reset. Now the Detroit Lions are probably like, yes, here we go.
We got
They
our
just
chance.
fired all their coaches. Now we're on an even playing field.
Yeah.
Let's go. Jared Goff and everything. But Mike Zimmer, I mean, that's understandable too. I mean, when you look at it, again, when you make this so many kind of playoff runs, you were there with Case Keenum on the doorstep.
Oh, they were
you
killing it.
Potentially going to play the Super Bowl in your home stadium, much like now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just did.
Right.
I mean, it was a storybook ending. Couldn't do it, and they say, well, Case, we loved it, man. You did great, but we still think there's somebody better out there. We're going to go with that, and they give it to Kirk Cousins, and he hasn't really been able to get him to the promised land.
I mean,
and Mike Zimmer's been along for that whole ride. So
I'm surprised about that move. I am. I understand, like, in their eyes, they view Kirk Cousins, and he probably was, a little better than Case Keenum. But for the amount of money that you were willing to pay Kirk Cousins, at $30 million guaranteed every year for the next 3 years, yikes! I mean, I would have much rather gone with Case Keenum and see how much farther you could have got with him if he stayed at quarterback. You would have paid way less in terms of money. And on top of that, you could utilize that to help strengthen your team elsewhere.
Yeah.
Played pretty well. I think they should have gave him a shot, but they decided not to. Here comes Kirk Cousins eating up a lot of salary cap room. And Mike Zimmer, I mean, he's kind of like a little bit above 500, record percentage coach. So he's been there for 7 years now. So it's not like he's been there for only a couple of years, 3 years. No, he's had extensive amount of time with the Vikings. Since 2014 to now, he's been there. So 7 years as a head coach. Regular season record is 64-47-1. So just above 500. Not bad, right? As long as you're above 500 career-wise, with the Vikings, pretty good. Postseason, he's 2-3. Career 66-50-1. So still above 500. But here's how his records broke down in terms of each year he coached. So his first year he was there 7-9. To be expected, right? New coach coming in, got to try to make some moves, change everything over. 7-9. Okay, not terrible, not okay. Second year, huge difference. 11-5 and won the division. So boom, you're thinking, yes, we got a coach, we got a great team, we're going somewhere. Third year, 8-8. 8-8. Inconsistent, right? Fourth year, 13-3. They made it to the championship game in the NFC, but lost. So now you're like, okay, well, we're up, we're down, we're up, we're down. Kind of like the stock market. And then fifth year, 8-7-1. And that year, I believe it was that year, is when 5 weeks into the season is when Mike Zimmer had that eye issue.
Yeah.
He got a piece of his card cut him in the eye, and he had to sit out for the rest of the season. So I mean, I don't know. Would it have made a huge difference? Maybe him being there. And then the 6th year, 10-6. You're like, oh man, we're back up again. Still missed the playoffs, so even at 10-6. That's how competitive that NFC was.
Yeah.
And then the 7th year, this past season, 7-9. So a lot of up and down throughout his coaching career with the Vikings. So take that as you will, and you're starting to see this Vikings team too go through a lot of changes the past couple of years in terms of personnel leaving, going to other teams, not being able to replenish those holes and to continue the success that they had. So 7 years, is that enough? We've seen them go up and down. Does Mike Zimmer deserve to be let go? I mean, it's kind of a hard call. I mean, because you've seen success, then you've seen him, fall down. But in the end, I think that this year, he's got to prove it. Kirk Cousins, final year of his contract. Do you really want to pay this dude going forward? That's going to be a big question for them in next offseason. Can Mike Zimmer get it done? Can they make a push for the playoffs? Because I feel like he's got to make the playoffs now. You have to make the playoffs to save your job. You've been there 7 years.
Yeah, that's why he's on this thing. It's one thing, again, to be consistent, to make the playoffs, and here and there. And the problem is with these divisions, you're brought in there for a goal. Again, it's been since Mike McCarthy's days, and even earlier on before that, Green Bay's division, basically. I mean, you can look at it that way.
Right.
So you're brought in there like, who are we going to get?
You have to
take
Green
these
Bay.
guys down and take them out, and this is our time. And that's why you bring Kirk Cousins, long-term deal, big money. This is the guy that's going to get us there. And then all of a sudden, Green Bay hits, like I said, hits the reset and gets Matt LaFleur in there, and you're like, all right, we've got him now. They got to reset with this guy.
Right.
And they jump or propel right back in there and kind of smack you in the mouth. And like, what? Where the hell did these guys come from? Like, damn you, Green Bay. Damn you. Again. And got in it. And so now the organization and even fans got to look at it and be like, dude, you were here to do this. We gave you this here, and you haven't gotten back to that spot that you were there with Case Keenum now. And you let these guys get ahead of us again. Like, God damn it, Mm-hmm. And that's where some of these guys' jobs are on the line. What, did they do a horrible job? No, I don't think they did. But if you're hired there to do that, get over that specific hump or echelon, and you can't get there, then that's where teams say, maybe we got to try and find somebody that can do it. Because Green Bay did it in the last, in a switch, just like that.
I know. That's the funny thing is, like, everybody knows Green Bay's organization
be able to do
is
that, though, either.
so well run.
Mm-hmm.
that they could make a switch like that and be like, we're okay. We still got our nucleus of players. We still got our front office pretty intact, and we're just going to switch. The head coach will be fine, and it worked. Yeah. They did their homework. They hired their guy, and they're still there.
I mean, we've seen things happen like this. You saw, people. We had some losing seasons here for the Giants with Tom Coughlin. We'll say, but he brought the Giants there to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Not even on winning records. But they were able to play hard, get a couple championships. But then again, things just weren't good enough. So you moved on to McAdoo. Then you moved on to this guy and that guy. You know what I mean? And now you're looking at it right in your face. It's 2021. They haven't won the Super Bowl now since 2011. That's been 10 years now, Joe, since that whole deal.
There's some teams
and they're
that
still
haven't
trying
won
to. They haven't won yet since, and now you're on next coach number 3 or whatever, and now some journalists out there are calling for Joe Judge's head.
That's crazy.
And it's like, if these teams keep trying to search for that next guy, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's what potentially could happen with some of these franchises. You won't get back to that spot when you had almost that guy that was there. Now you're still left searching. There's plenty of teams that have been there. People have done that. The Browns have done that with quarterbacks. Just searching
a lot.
Just out there searching for that guy.
But doesn't that go to show you how important those positions are? Like, quarterback is
you shouldn't jump the gun sometimes.
Right. Quarterback is the most important position, and the reason why is because it's so hard to find the right one and to carry your team. That's really what it is. And then you could even say that about the head coaching position, because it's really hard to find a good head coach too. I mean, there's been plenty of teams that have kind of rolled the dice, said, hey, we're going to go with a young guy this year. Shit, that didn't work. Hey, we're going to go with an experienced guy this year. Crap, that didn't work either. Let's go with a guy that has wide receiver assistant position. Let's just roll. Let's do something crazy, and that doesn't work. So head coach is very hard to fulfill, and find that good one that you can keep there as long as possible to run your team. And the same thing with quarterback. Like it is so hard. Like I don't think the casual fan realizes how difficult it is to find a quarterback. Look at Denver. They thought for sure Tim Tebow was their guy years ago. They traded up in the first round. They grabbed Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow was a gimmick guy. Didn't really play. I mean, early on, it was hard for defenses to figure out. But then when they did, that's it. Done. They figured it out. You're done. Over with. Moving on to the next quarterback. They draft Drew Lock, thinking that Drew Lock is going to be our guy. Drew Lock has faltered so far. He's made some, highlights, but he's also made a lot of mistakes, which is showing them right now that he's not our guy either. They're still struggling to find that quarterback, even when they had an opportunity to take one. They decided not to, so poor decision-making is right there as well. So, when you get to find that quarterback, like the Bengals did, Bengals were lucky, I feel like. They were one of the luckiest teams on earth to be able to be there to get Joe Burrow, who is probably one of the most proven quarterbacks coming out of college and one of the most successful ones. For them to get him and for him to pan out immediately, unreal. And the same thing goes for the Chargers. Listen, that doesn't normally happen. Normally you don't draft a quarterback and you're like, hey, look, we're good.
But you think, look at these, like Brian Noah in our interview last week brought this up. Mm-hmm. Giants went and grabbed Daniel Jones when they did, but Justin Herbert was there too.
Right.
They didn't grab him. And I'm looking at it too. You don't know. And when you were talking about head coaches, and then even I was thinking about the quarterbacks, some of those different things go hand in hand. I think at times, if you put Peyton Manning there, and then you did like a Vic Fangio or something like that, or somebody else, I think that is not that much like, it's more of a locker room guy, not an intellect guy.
Yeah.
And your quarterback thinks he's smarter than the head coach or whatever, knows what he's doing more. I don't think it's going to mix as well. It's like Peyton Manning, I don't think cares about a locker room guy.
Right.
But say like Vic Fangio, same thing with that situation. He's more defensive, like, I know you guys, so it's getting riled up. Drew Lock, I know this. Hey, can you guys talk him up? Can you guys get him where he needs to go, ahead to speed or whatever? He's not the guy that's going to make Drew Lock better. Drew Lock can be like, yeah, I think I'm doing good out here, right, Vic? You're like, yeah, guy, you got this,
Yeah.
Not being able to work with him, not having that smarts. And I think they go hand in hand, the quarterback and the head coach, so much. If one's smarter than the other and things like that, or one's a locker room guy and the other's an X and O's guy, they don't mix. And that's where you have a problem, I think, with leading your team further in some of those quarterback situations.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just it's kind of crazy. I mean, and this is the thing is like with this whole this head coaching carousel, it's about to happen because we all know that about Black Monday. Mm-hmm. You know, the first Monday after the season's done, you're going to see heads are going to start rolling, guys are going to get fired, and we're going to be wondering who's the next head coach for that respective team. David Culley, I don't give him much of a shot. I mean, being that he doesn't have a whole lot in terms of background for that position, I just feel like he's going to be the fall guy for them, you know. And a lot of these other guys, I don't know why some of them are on the list because so far, to me, they're successful. So, but Jason Canfora, I think you need to get your head examined. And
I think he should be on the hot seat, Joe.
I think we should just take your place.
There we go.
Canfora. I think we need to take over for you to help the fans really understand football because you're misguided.
There you go. Maybe we'll do our own hot seat going further throughout the season as it starts to unfold. And but yeah, CBS Sports, look us up, man. Hit us up. Speaking of which, about being on the hot seat and things like that.
I'm on the hot seat
right now because I'm hot to trot for this Raise energy drinks, man. I'm feeling good. Rep Sports, promo code Raise 'em Up, RAZEMUP. For the promo code, you get the discount through us, and you get the sample pack. Mix it up with water. When you're on the go, just dump it in your water bottle, grind it, and go. Work out, whatever, conquer the day. And I do it when I bring it to work in the morning. I go in, pop it in there quick. It takes me a half-hour drive. I'm good to go by the time I get there. I'm up and going. Boom. I don't need all that extra coffee and all this other junk like that. Boom, there I am, ready to go. I'm focused, ready to conquer my day.
Yeah, and there's no crash. There's no crash afterwards. Like, after the energy wears off, it just wears off. That's it. I don't feel drowsy. I don't feel sleepy. I'm all good to go. So definitely check it out. Repsports.com. Hit the promo code. Get it on there. Raise them up, and you'll get 15% off. If you go for that sampler pack right now, all you got to pay is shipping. That's it. It's $10 flat rate shipping. You pay for the sampler pack. You get your raise. Try it out. I'm telling you right now, you will not be disappointed. It is truly an amazing product. That's why we support these guys. They're made in the USA, right out of Florida. Raise. Go
Absolutely.
Get you some.
That's right. Join the Raise Rebellion.
Also want to say, if you haven't already done so, if you know someone that would love to do so, go head over on our YouTube page, our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button. Also hit the notification bell. Get our latest, greatest updated content. Also, you can find us on Twitter at FB_no. And as a lot of you already know, if you don't have YouTube, you don't have Twitter, you can follow us right here on Facebook, Football on the Know Show, or go to our page, Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it for us. We appreciate everything from you guys, and we will see you next time.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday night for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.